Hey everybody, welcome to the Mother Figures podcast. I'm Caitlin Darkangelo, founder and co-owner of Figure, Midwestern wife, and girl mom. I'm a dual certified pregnancy and postpartum trainer, majored in exercise science from the University of Michigan, earned my master in management degree from Duke University, and have been coaching in the fitness industry for over a decade. This podcast dives into all things pregnancy and postpartum fitness, especially in how to navigate strength and intensity training in these seasons. Whether you're in it yourself, trying to get pregnant, or coaching this population, you're in the right place. I'm excited to share personal experiences, client stories, guest interviews, and evidence-based strategies to give you the guidance, insights, and clarity needed to navigate these seasons with confidence. And with that, let's get rolling. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Mother Figures podcast. Today I want to talk about a very fun, important, and commonly asked question or topic, and that is both when can I and how should I return to exercise postpartum or after having a baby. So I want to first talk about when to return or when is recommended, when you can, all those considerations, and then go into the kind of what or how to get back into exercise postpartum. So let's just dive right into it. So the first piece of when to return to exercise postpartum, obviously, first and foremost, is up to your own comfortability, up to your wants, up to your mental capacity, your physical capacity. Your lifestyle has just changed a ton. You have a newborn to take care of. You have all these things all these considerations. So some moms literally cannot fathom adding something else to their plate, or that's how they view exercise. They can't think about movement or anything else. They just have so much going on. Maybe moms have, not a ton of support, or they have to go right back to work soon and all this kind of stuff. So if that is you, I wanted to start this podcast by saying that is so normal, even for moms that are avid lifters or avid fitness goers in general, and then they hit postpartum and they're like, oh my gosh, I could not even think about trying to do structured exercise right now. And that is totally okay. There's so much that goes into it: sleep, nutrition, all these different things. So that's for another time. But today I'm going to talk to kind of those who are eager to get back into exercise, or who are asking when is the earliest possible that I can get back to exercise. So just know up front that every mom has a different level of comfort or eagerness to get back to exercise. And it's totally okay if it's not till 6 months or a year or 10 years after having a baby. There's a huge range of when you'll feel comfortable. But first and foremost, when you want to get back to exercise, this is kind of what this podcast will apply to. So I'm just going to use the example, and this is a lot of moms that come to me are those who are super eager, asking can I get started today? When's the earliest possible that I can get back to exercise? So I just wanted caveats with that. So let's say you are one of those people that are super eager, want to get back to exercise as early as possible. My first recommendation, or the first thing to think about, is changing your definition of exercise. So during this time period, so let's call it the first 6 weeks postpartum, that's just a general time frame, I want you to think of exercise as any activity that will bring you closer to achieve a desired goal. So if you think about it, that's what exercise is in everyday life. You go into the gym because you're trying to get to a goal, whether that be running a race or competing in something, or maybe it's, body image or weight-based or just feeling good. There's all different kinds of goals that exercise brings for us. And so I want you to think about that exact definition that you've always kind of subconsciously had about exercise. And now we are really trying to hone in that definition for this early to postpartum time period as any activity that will bring you closer to achieve a desired goal. So exercise right now is not what you used to be able to do. So it's not do what you always done or go back to exercise, whatever you used to do before, whether that's lifting an X amount of weight or running X amount of miles or going X amount of speed on a treadmill, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how sweaty you get. That's not the definition of exercise right now. Or how many calories you burn. That is not the definition of exercise right now. Exercise is any activity that will bring you closer to a desired goal. Super, super, super important. I like to think of this definition rather than saying you're in a rehab or recovery phase. Sometimes I will use that wording, but I'm kind of getting away from that because honestly, like, who wants to do rehab? No one's going to like take the time to like do rehab. To them or to me, people with my kind of brain, you're like, oh, that's like easy stuff. I don't need that because I'm fit and I can just like hop back into what I always did before. And so not thinking about it as rehab, not thinking about it as recovery, although it is both of those things, we want to get right back into exercise. So why not just change our definition for right now or think about it differently of any activity that's getting us to our desired goal, which is rehab, but that's how we're framing it in our brain. So we're reframing it as like in terms of being the start of our exercise progression or exercise for the current state of our body. That's all exercise. So this is a big piece I want to nail down before we get into like my recommendations. It's like literally any movement that helps with the end goal and helps you make it enjoy this phase more because you know that you are doing something that's progressing you towards where you want to go. It'll help you be more eager to do it. It'll help you stay consistent with it versus calling it rehab where you're like, it's kind of like separate from exercise. But if you frame it like this, it can make you eager, more consistent, makes you enjoy it more, all of things that are going to help you actually recover and get to where you want to go. So once that's clarified, again, this is for the person who is eager to get back to exercise as early as possible. Then I'd recommend starting exercise, in air quotes, within the first 1 to 2 weeks postpartum for vaginal births and like 1 to 4 weeks, let's call it, for a C-section in general. And I'm going to go into the what and how and all that kind of stuff. But based on like our newfound definition, this is not being cleared at 6 weeks and going back to your normal fitness routine. That's not what exercise is right now. I recommend, and it is now recommended in the 2025 postpartum guidelines that just came out this year, or I guess last year. And I'll be doing a whole podcast on that research study as well. It is no longer recommended to wait 6 weeks to be cleared by a provider in order to start your return to exercise. And so that's super important. That's something I'm pushing really hard for just to get into people's hands. But in general, we are not waiting 6 weeks. We are not sitting on our butts for 6 weeks and then just magically being cleared for exercise and going right back into what we always did. We are starting with a progression of activities that we can start 1 to 2 weeks postpartum. Again, C-section, it depends on like your pain meds and different considerations and scar healing and all this stuff too. So there's that piece to consider. Which is why I recommend like 1 to 4 weeks in general, a little bit longer maybe. Again, this is all going to be based on your personal preference as well. That's the top piece of this tier. But we are starting early. We want to start early. Any other surgery or medical procedure or any kind of like body change, which it is a body change to have a baby come out of your vagina and stretch it, whether it's and same thing with C-section, that's a major abdominal surgery. Any other surgery, they get put into PT or movement like as soon as possible for so many different reasons. If you see an ACL tear or even spinal surgery, they're recommending these people get up and moving as quick as possible for a variety of different reasons. And for whatever reason, pregnancy and postpartum, we've been told to sit on our butts for 6 weeks, do nothing, and then magically go back to exercise. It's just like the most baloney thing I've ever heard. So sorry about that soapbox. It'll be a whole nother podcast, but that's the time frame of when to get started postpartum. If you are eager, if you are wanting, and again, within our new frame of definition of what exercise is at this time. So now going into the what to do and kind of how to go about it. This is exactly how I structure both my Figure Postpartum app program and my in-person 6-week postpartum return to fitness class. I've coached hundreds of moms through this exact framework, so I'm just going to kind of lay it out for you guys of what we start with, and how we go about those things. So first, there's going to be 4 different categories of what to start with, and those are short walks, number 1. Number 2, breath work and the deep core and pelvic floor connection that comes with it. Number 3, there's stretching and mobility of key areas and muscle groups. And then 4 is activating the muscles with different body weight movements, daily movement patterns, and things like that. So let's get into each one. Number 1, walks. I want you to start with 5 minutes of walking, whether it be around the house, maybe it's even at the hospital or right after birth, wherever you give birth. We want to see our body moving for a blood flow perspective. It reduces blood clotting. It has the endorphin kick to it. There's all these kind of, obviously walking is good. Like I don't have to go into science behind walking. But generally when I say, when somebody asks me like, when should I start, your program or whatever it is, I say, when you feel good walking 5 minutes without feeling extreme pelvic heaviness or like having to use the couch as a crutch or like being able to go 5 minutes unassisted, that's when I want you to start my Figure Postpartum program, or that's when I want you to start getting into more structured activity for your return to fitness postpartum. So starting with 5 minutes, and then within the first 6 weeks, this is exactly programmed into my Figure Postpartum program. Each week I add 5 minutes on. So like week 2 is 10 minutes, week 3 is 15 minutes, all the way up to 30 minutes of consistent, unrestricted walking in that 6th week. Maybe you want to go faster than that. That's totally fine. This is just like a general framework to go based on that can apply to a lot of different people, regardless of your fitness background. But again, there's so many benefits. You're walking throughout the day too. So it's just something that we need to get our bodies doing again. Within those first 6 weeks as well, maybe after the first week, or maybe it's after 2 weeks, I also like to add in things like stationary bikes, elliptical, Stairmaster, whatever kind of like steady state for like 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. Whenever you feel like it, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's a few times a week, just to get that blood flow going, get our body moving, get us unstuck, because we're sitting and breastfeeding and holding a baby and kind of in these weird anatomical positions all the time. So just getting our body fluid again is really important. And it's going to be obviously that base of foundation for building back our endurance capacity over time. So that's number 1, is walks / steady state cardio. But that's not pushing the speed. It's not going for distance. We're just setting like short amount of times, and we're progressing or building up on that duration over time. We're not just starting with like a 1 hour walk like that. We need to progress something as simple and easy as walks, just as we progress weight training or anything else. Number 2 is breath work. And this is very important. This is something that I have a video for in my first 4 weeks of my postpartum program. So you literally breathe along with me. It's like a follow along thing. If you don't have Figure Postpartum, find a way. I post a lot of this on my Instagram and stuff too, or find like a pelvic floor therapist or somebody who knows breath work, and you can really learn how to properly do breath work. That's another big thing, is like some people think that they're doing it correctly, but it's all off. So it's kind of like a really intricate thing. And feedback from my postpartum class in the past is like, that's one of the hardest pieces to like figure out. Seems so natural and so ingrained in us, but it is actually quite technical, and there's a lot of things that go on with it. But anyways, once you do learn how to properly perform breathwork, this is what's going to help reestablish that mind to body connection with our core and pelvic floor system. So our diaphragm is our breathing muscle. Our pelvic floor responds to our diaphragm, and that's how our core system manages pressure, tension, all these things. This is a whole big topic of like, the core system and everything that goes on in there. But all you have to know is that breath work is the foundation of building that system back up. So we need to learn how to breathe so we can reconnect to those systems, so we can gain strength, because our core is literally how we hold our body together for everything we do in our day. Along with that is learning how to properly engage. So breath work includes a lengthening piece on the inhales and a contraction piece or an engagement on the exhales. And so we not only need to learn how to properly lengthen our muscles, we also have to learn how to properly contract. So that doesn't mean just doing Kegels, because that is just a pelvic floor contraction, but we want to get that full range of those muscle groups, the pelvic floor and the core. And we connect that, or we do that through breath work, being able to lengthen and contract. And it includes all kinds of things like proper core alignment, so stacking the ribs over the hips, and coordination and timing of that breath with certain activities, and then the strength of the contraction, how much force is being provided by each one. So there's a lot that goes into it. But just in general, knowing that breath work is a foundational piece that we can start working on. I actually am really excited this time around to go in and do breath work like in the hospital, like right after delivery. So that'll be cool. So breath work is like one of the first easiest pieces to, not easiest, but most foundational pieces to go into in this early postpartum time period that is considered exercise at this point in time. It's an activity that's going to bring you closer to your goal. Number 3 is mobility and activation. So this is something that I teach actually in my Mother Figures Coaches certification. So I train different professionals, different coaches, different gym owners in pregnancy and postpartum fitness to help them become more confident and knowledgeable in the space for when they have those ladies walk in their doors. And what I teach in that course is a mobility, activation, and movement framework. And this is for activity in the first few weeks postpartum as a way to build into all lifting and fitness activities in general. So if we take squats, for instance, we're going back to the mobility, activation, movement. So first we're mobilizing the joints that are associated with that lift. So in the instance of a squat, that would be your ankles, your knees, your hips. We have to remember that our joints also haven't either been loaded or like they've kind of been altered throughout pregnancy, and we haven't done the intensity that we're like building up to do in quite some time, especially when it comes to impact, running, things like that. Like sometimes we forget that, like, yes, our core and pelvic floor are obviously affected, but our whole rest of the body also needs to get back into its groove. So mobilizing the joints that are associated with, foundational movement patterns like a squat. Secondly is activating or waking up the muscles that are used in that lift. So for a squat, for example, you would want to activate the glutes, quads, hamstrings with different things like glute bridges or good mornings, different things that are activating or turning on those muscles again after having a baby. Again, our body's a little bit out of whack. So we're just trying to turn on muscles, activate them, and then obviously mobilizing the joints. And then number 3 is having mindful movement patterns throughout the day that mirror that foundational movement pattern. So for the instance of a squat, like thinking about or treating sitting down and standing up in any capacity as if you were doing a bodyweight squat in the gym. So activities of daily living, we're doing this all the time: sit and stand in a car, sit and stand it for dinner. Literally we do this all day long. So why not like think about that as exercise and as like as if you were doing it in a gym setting, because that is at this point in time what exercise, or what will feel like, not challenging per se, but more effortful. And so doing this kind of breakdown, or thinking of it in this framework of mobilizing the joints, activating the muscles, and then movement patterns that are, mirroring that movement that you want to get back into. Those are 3 things that we are trying to reestablish during this time period. Number 4, so we have walks, we have breath work, we have mobility and activation. And number 4 is going to be body weight work. So this is something structured exercise that you can start doing within the first 1 to 2, 1 to 4, whatever it is, 1 to 6 weeks postpartum. And that is like, after we learn how to breathe, connect with our deep core and pelvic floor muscles, we've mobilized the joints, we've woken up the muscle group. So it's kind of the last phase of that. So after all of those have been established, so this is kind of coming more towards the end of that, maybe 2 to 3 or 3 to 6 week period of time. Now we are going to get into like structured body weight movement. So we're purposely doing a body weight squat in our quote unquote workout. We are now doing a hinge pattern purposely structured into our workout. We're purposely, pressing a light dumbbell overhead and back down, like those kind of things. now that we've established the foundation pieces of it. So this kind of comes later on in that early recovery. The first three, the walking / steady state cardio, breath work, mobility and activation, along with the deep core pelvic floor that relates to the breath work. Those things should be established, but it doesn't mean that we can't try a bodyweight squat in the first week postpartum. That's not what I'm saying either. It's just kind of the piece that comes following all of that stuff in a natural progression. So once we have established those 4 things, that's kind of our foundation. And then we build onto that from there. So we build on in terms of variation. So that's where in my postpartum class, we have our foundational movement patterns. And then from there, we go into, instead of a normal squat, we do a sumo squat, and we do a Cossack squat, and we do a single-sided loaded squat. And you build up variations of that foundational movement pattern over time, just getting your body working in multiple capacities or multiple angles in 360 degrees, if you want to think about it like that. We're just trying to apply challenge to our same muscle groups, but in different ways, essentially, is what we're doing. So we're building on variety. We're building in different workout structures. So instead of just doing 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or whatever the interval you're doing, or whatever the rep range you're doing, now maybe we're adding in an AMRAP or an EMOM or a different ratio of interval. We're trying to build up different ways or capacities for us to challenge ourselves in terms of our rest to work time or our endurance capacity, all that kind of stuff. And then we're just trying to in a body weight fashion, change up some variety of stuff and then work on some different workout structures. So that's kind of the next piece. And then from there, it's really just traditional overload principles of fitness, progressive overload. We're building on dumbbells or bands or resistance in some way, and then we're building up weight over time. Then it's intensity. We're increasing the intensity or the difficulty or the challenge of the workout. We're increasing the duration of the workout as a whole. We're increasing the volume, so increasing your weight or your reps and sets. We're increasing the amount of days that you work out, so your frequency. Reducing your rest time in between sets, reps, in between intervals, in between days of training. We're increasing the difficulty of skill work. So maybe we're going from a dumbbell clean to a barbell clean to a clean and press. There's all these different traditional fitness principles. Once we really treat the postpartum time period as its own time, then we can just go back into our flow of things. And that is the natural progression that we should be following when it comes to our postpartum return to fitness. So we should really have that locked in time. Again, it's still exercise. It's still activities that are getting you to a goal. We're a little bit more focused. We're a little bit more tailored to the postpartum time period, but that's why we spend, the first 6 to 12 weeks. My postpartum program is pretty specific for up to 12 weeks. And then it is a 1-year program too. So from weeks 12 to 52 is that progressive overload phase. So I'm getting you back to your max lifts with your squat, your deadlift, your bench press, and your overhead press. I'm getting you back to your skill level of difficulty. So we're going back from head crunches or head lifts all the way to toes to bar. There's a progression when it comes to all of that, but it's that general progressive overload, just as if you were a beginner in the gym. We're just building that foundation. We're molding your body back to make sure it can withstand whatever you want to be able to do. And then we're progressively making it harder over time with a bunch of different stuff. So that's kind of the framework that I go based on, or the what and the how of how to return to postpartum exercise. I will say in those first few weeks, when we're talking about, again, weeks 1 to 2 or 1 to 4, structured movement should really just be taking up 10 to 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes a day. Maybe this is all at one time, or maybe this is chunked up over the course of the day. Maybe you have a baby who starts to cry in the middle of your workout and you have to do it at another point in the day. That is totally fine. As long as we're getting about 10 to 20 minutes of structured activity, that is enough to start building that foundation. And so just not thinking about it as an all or nothing, or I have to get an hour of my workout in order to get benefit. That's not the case. Again, early postpartum, any activity you do that will build that foundation is going to be so helpful in helping you return to whatever it is that you want to do, without symptoms, without pain, without issue, and full of, strength and foundation and confidence. And that's really what exercise is purposeful for in these early phases. So like I said, this is the exact structure that I use with both my in-person postpartum return to fitness clients in my class and also the framework that I use for my Figure Postpartum app program. It is a lot to think about at a time when you're honestly having to think about a lot already, which is exactly why I created the program in the first place. I actually created it while I was postpartum with Amelia. And then over the course of a few years, I've tweaked it, I've rearranged it, I've added to it, I've kind of expanded on it, and then I'm following it this time around. So it's a lot easier for me, even mentally, even though I created it myself. It just takes so much off your plate when you already have so much to think about. And it's super important because when you have more energy, when you feel more confident in yourself, when you are prioritizing something that's important to you, that gives you so much more drive and energy and good feels, I guess, to go about your own day, which can help you with, your own motherhood journey in a time when things are kind of hectic, kind of crazy. You are caring for everybody else, your newborn and everything and everyone else. So this is just a really great way for you to be able to care about you and focus on you and have that little time for yourself and just do something for you. So I do have a 7-day free trial of my postpartum app program that you can try out. I'll put the link to that in the podcast show notes. And I also wanted to note that it does come along with my coaching. So within the app, you can just message me anytime to guide you through any personal considerations or symptoms you're feeling or just questions, things that you're uncertain about. And so that's something that I really prioritize. And I want moms to make sure that they are taken care of because there are not many providers or resources for this early time period that's focused on the mom solely. So that's what I like to do. I like to care about you guys. So it'll be really fun to work with you guys. If you guys want to hop into the app program, I hope you guys found this episode helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, obviously at any time. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Mother Figures podcast. If these episodes help or resonate with you in any way, it would be so helpful to the show if you could leave a review so we can get this into more moms' hands. And if you're looking for even more guidance and direction when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness, I got you covered. My Mother Figures app subscription includes my Figure Pregnancy and Figure Postpartum workout programs, in addition to our general fitness programs. You'll get the day-by-day workouts you need to help you feel strong, pain-free, and labor-ready during pregnancy, and also the recovery, strength, and progressions you'll need to get back to the activities you love, full of strength and without symptoms after baby arrives. If you're local to the Brighton, Michigan area, I also host daily women's functional fitness classes, a 6-week postpartum return to fitness course, and pregnancy and postpartum consultation sessions. For those who are providers, coaches, or practitioners in the space, I hold a live Mother Figures certification course that equips you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to train and work with this population. For information on all of these services and programs, make sure to check out fitisgettingreal.com/moms or head to the show notes for the direct link. I'm so thankful that you tuned in today's episode, and I will catch you next time.